Hey, this is Sean with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by GoTennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com and be sure to register for the Go Tennis Fall Festival on November 9th. I know today you are going to be, the day before, right? You've got to be ready. If you haven't done it yet, jump on your phone, jump on the computer, register. You can get in for $1. You can get a tennis drill for $5, pickleball clinics for $15. It's going to be awesome. Today is the official view with Hall of Fame coach and tournament official Dave Matthews. Today we're going to talk about normal match prep versus rain delay match prep or any other delay match prep. Dave, the professionals have their plans for every eventuality. They got a plan A, plan B. They got a whole team of people making sure they know what to do, somebody watching the clock, preparing, getting ready. Should junior players at least have some plan for rain and other delays? So would you share your point of view? I say, first of all, as an official who you say saw it recently at a tournament, and also as a coach, as maybe some suggestions as to what they can do.
Sure. I see it quite often, officiating tournaments and also, going to tournaments with kids. The first case in point is from an official standpoint, you have matches normally that will in a moderate, even a decent size level 6 tournament. Level 7s tend to be a lot smaller draws because you're talking more the beginner player. But when you get into the level 6s that are moderately sized tournaments, and probably you could probably rest assured say that's most of the time around a decently sized metro area. Could be a Columbus, could be even Augusta, Macon, Atlanta for sure, and maybe even like Valdosta or Savannah. When you get into the cities that are decent size, you're going to have moderate, good sized draws. Probably 8 to 12 kids in a draw, maybe even 16 full draws. You get to the bigger areas, you're going to get bigger draws. And they'll separate them out. You're going to have most of the facilities are going to have matches starting at, let's say, 8 a.m. And pretty much there will not be warm-up courts all day long at that facility. They will be running matches on and off the courts very quickly to get matches done, to not play with Mother Nature, in case all that happens. And so from that standpoint, the way that I've looked at it from an official standpoint is these kids that are playing, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, you should be there trying to hit some balls by I'd say 7:15 at the latest, maybe 7 a.m., for a good 30 minutes. Because a lot of places at a quarter till the starting time, like quarter till 8, 7:45, most facilities will clear the courts because they want all players to go use the restroom, to get your bags out of the car, get your shoes on, and when you check in, you do show up to the facility. Let's say you show up at 7 a.m. Don't look to check in at 7 a.m. Look to check in when you are ready to go on court and take battle. That means you've warmed up, whatever you're going to do. If you've hit some balls, that's fine. But at that check-in time, if that other opponent is checked in, you're probably going to be assigned to a court. We're going to get you on a court as quickly as possible because we want to get ahead of any other turbulence coming down the road. That 2.5 day, if it's like a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday tournament, we want to head it off before it gets started. And that's what I see a lot of people. They'll roll up at 7:45, rolling out of the car, coming over. They'll, do you want to check in? Yeah, they'll go check in, and then they'll say, I need to go to use the bathroom. Well, you're not ready to play at that point. You need to check in when you are ready to play. I know the bathroom break situation. I get it. But just remember, you got that one. So usually you want to save that for a set you get beat 6-0, take a bathroom break, even though I don't encourage it. I think you should be able to problem solve. If you lose a set that bad, probably a lot of unforced errors on your part. Cut those down and you'll be in the game a little better.
I found usually when I lose a set 6-0, I'm not too concerned. Doesn't really bother me at all because it's usually followed by another loss of a set at 6-0. So I'm not too worried about it.
Right. I agree. I agree. You got to do a massive amount of changing, and the other players got to let down a lot too to let you back in. But it happens. So that's the one thing from a match preparation. If you're at a big tournament like I'd say probably a level 5, which is you start jumping into the state, the Macons, the Georgia Florida Opens, things like that. You start looking for extra courts to where you could warm up some other players at around noonish or so. And so anybody, when I used to travel with kids from a coach's standpoint, you're still limited on courts to warm up on. You start looking for apartment complexes, things like that, that will let you use their courts. And I'm always careful to make sure if I go into a place, I'll look around it for an office or something and say, hey, do you mind if I pay you a few dollars to warm up on these courts during the tournament? We're going to come in and go out probably in a 30-minute span. And we'll be cordial to anybody else coming on. But usually I look for something to warm up kids before the 8 a.m. matches started, as a group. And then I would look for somewhere around 11 or 12 o'clock for another warm-up court from players that were going on for either their second match or their first main draw match prior to that 11 or 12 o'clock slot, because that's kind of the way it falls with a big back draw and all that stuff. But
I remember those as a kid where we were taking those 6 a.m., get out of bed. We were all in the hotel, and you got to get down to the court, and you get there before the other academies kids get there. And there was that little bit of rivalry, but we're also kind of waving at our friends that we knew.
Absolutely.
And so it's fun to do that as the group, and that's how it works when you're prepared. When you're ready, that's always plan A. Now, it rains.
Sure.
What is plan B? Because the simplest version I ever pictured was feed myself and make sure I am sweating before I walk onto that court. Warming up, your on-court warm-up before your match is not a warm-up. That is a hello to your opponent.
Right.
You got 5 minutes. That's all you're not actually getting a feel for the ball. That's not what that's for. So you've got to be sweating, physically warmed up. That's why you see so many jump ropes, right? So all right, the courts are a little wet. I'm not really starting at 8. Can't really warm up. What's plan B?
Well, plan B becomes, it can be a couple of different folds to it, because the first and foremost thing you got to figure out is, what are the tournament directors trying to do? If they're trying to get us to play, which like this last weekend, we always are trying to get the tournament finished if we can. We understand we can shorten the scoring. We use that as a last resort. We want you to play the same scoring, like regular scoring, the same length of sets and all that, if time and court space is available. That's not out of our hands. What's out of our hands is the weather. So this last weekend, we planned on starting on Sunday, didn't have many matches, but the 8 a.m. start was going to be followed up. If we got it finished, there was enough of a enough of a break to let people rest. We have matches coming back at 11, and that would be it for the day. We had a little bit smaller of a tournament, but our 8 a.m. start got pushed to 3. We had fog roll in right as we had about 4 matches warming up. Like 2 minutes into the warm-up, the 5-minute warm-up, the drizzle started coming. It wasn't even rain. It was drizzle, heavy fog drizzle. We pulled them off the court. We said, we're going to hang here for about 45 minutes. That would be up till the top of like 9 o'clock. And everybody else was rolling in for the 8 o'clock start. And we wound up, we do the best we can. We know some people travel 45 minutes to an hour one way, but we can't do anything about that. I've been to tournaments in the past when I was like at South Fulton Tennis Center, which was about an hour away, and you get down there. Once you're down there, you ain't coming back home. Rain, shine or not, you're gonna find something to do down there. Then you'll come back at the end of the day.
Go find a restaurant, get some food.
That's right.
What are you gonna do?
Anyway, by the time we got on, I did hear a couple of the kids when they came back. We started all the matches at 3. And then we had to have a break. So we got the last matches on, I think, about 5, which was about, they came off the court, and the ones that came off that had to go back on, most of them said, give me about 15 or 20 minutes, get something to drink, maybe some crackers or something, and I'll be okay for this next match. We were like, okay, that's fine. That's your prerogative. And plus, the time had changed, so it got dark faster. It got dark at like 5:30, 5:45, which was different, but they understood that too. So I did hear one kid when he was playing, he actually wound up defaulting, and when he came off the court, he said, I ate too much. And I get it. You probably got your breakfast for your 8 a.m. Then you went and got something to eat at 11. Because we're still not on the court. We're doing updates every hour, telling you you've got about an hour and a half to get back here if we think it's going to dry. And we were pretty good at guessing exactly what was going to happen. And then when we finally got on, he got back and just said, I ate too much, too close to my time frame. So it is very hard. I would suggest if you're sitting there, these rain delays, and checking your phones, for the updates, don't eat like it's your last meal for that match that supposedly is at noon, and then it gets pushed back again, because now that food is not going to last long enough. So eat a little bit every hour, hour and a half, maybe something to drink. Definitely keep hydrated, because you probably are still catching up from the previous day's play. But, and then at the same time, like you said, you're going to have your jump rope. You don't want to be too heavy with food in your stomach that you can't jump a little rope to get a sweat going. And then when you get out there, I figured in 5 minutes, you're probably going to get about, I figure about 50 strokes if you're a moderate player, back and forth, not just ground strokes, but 50 strokes, including serves. So within those 50 strokes, you ought to assess, what am I loading my cannon with? What am I feeling good about? Let's just tame it a little bit more right now to get a good start, and see if maybe Sean gets off to a bad start, and we'll go from there with that. If he don't get any better, I'm going to stay right here in the middle of the playing field, hit my big cannon, and avoid my weak one, and see if we can get through this thing as a win. Because once you get played about 4 or 5 games, you know what you got then. It's not a warm-up anymore. You're warmed up going. And you should be able to go to the end of that match, adjusting as you go along like you normally would. But that warm-up, which you might not have, like case on Sunday, kids were showing back up at like 2:30, and there was a few courts that were dry enough to hit. I told them don't be moving. They were still drying, but you got to be careful. You don't want to overdo it on a damp court, because the warm-up is very sketchy coming out of a rain delay. It always is. So jumping rope, maybe a few sprints, light sprints on a dry surface. Could be an indoor, track. Could be a road that's dry. That sometimes tennis courts dry differently than a road does. It might be a parking lot that's dry that was on a downhill slope that's drier. Look for stuff like that to get you a little sweat going, like you said. And that will get you off to a good enough start to where you're not looking at an uphill, deficit.
So I got 3 things as my moral of the story, so to speak. Your advice is stay hydrated, of course, because you can always take a bathroom break if you feel a little waterlogged, but also bring your water with you. And I'll put that in with eating. I'd rather undereat a little bit for a match and bring my snacks with me. Have your bananas, have your power bars, whatever it is you have in your bag as a snacks to keep you going. So food and water, of course, and then physically be ready to go, because what I can also do is I can stay on that jump rope for the 3-hour rain delay, and then I'm toast. I've worn out all my energy. So knowing when to start that and pick that time, when you've got an actual start time coming up, make sure you get yourself warmed up. And the thing I like there at the end, and Dave, if I can take the words out of your mouth and put them back in, so to speak, in this case, I start my match conservatively. I start my match feeling out my own shots, because it isn't a normal prep. Is that the kind of the final statement is saying, make sure you drink properly, make sure you eat properly, eat too little instead of too much. if you're going to mistake on one side or the other.
Right.
Make sure you're physically warmed up. But really the key there is figure out your own game. Don't just come out blasting.
Yeah, I mean, people, and people that have been around me or watched me play at all, and I know there's not many serving volleyers left, okay? Even though they knew that I was bringing the kitchen sink and coming at you all day long, it was to start out every match, my whole goal the first 3 games, whether I served one of those games or I served 2 of them, my whole goal was to go into those 3 games and miss very few balls. I want to know, and I can only find out what you have is by hitting you balls. If I don't hit the ball over, I find out nothing. I'm also giving you a lead, and I'm building a deficit against me. And that's, people look at me and they go, "Oh, you're serving in volley the first point." And I go, "Yeah, it was a kick serve." And I usually get a pretty good volley to volley. And if I make the volley, I'm finding out a lot right there. And that from there is how I usually started out matches. Could you break me? Yeah, there's a good chance you could. But you're going to have to work like a sailor from the get-go because I'm not going to miss many balls.
And I'm going to go with my bread and butter. I'm going to start with what I'm good at.
That's right.
And I'm going to make a bunch of balls, as you say, which is interesting coming from a serving volleyer, because usually that's not considered as make a bunch of balls, but make that first volley. For me, I'm going to hit the kick serve, take a step back, roll a big ball at your backhand and see what you got.
That's right.
So I'm going to take that and then look for whatever you're doing, whatever your plan A is, take plan A, but rein it in a little.
Right.
And make a bunch of balls. I like that a lot. Dave, thank you so much. This has been the Official View with Hall of Fame coach Dave Matthews. Thank you, sir. We'll see you next week.
You betcha, sir. Have a good day.